Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yari. I am the owner and furniture artist here at Lilly Moon Vintage. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about spraying furniture. So if you've been following me on other social media platforms, you may already know that I am like a 90% sprayer and like a 10% hand painter. Of course, I started off with hand painting, but then once I got to spraying, it's kind of hard to go back to it because you get a beautiful, flawless finish. But I do hand paint still occasionally if I'm going to be doing any type of blending or anything like that. Anywho, I'm going to go ahead and go over just a few tips and tricks that I have learned along the way. And then I will share with you guys a new sprayer that I got, which is the Wagner Flexio 5000. And you're just going to have to keep watching to see what my thoughts are on that. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you like this video. So my husband and I found this little nightstand out by a dumpster near my brother's new apartment, and I was excited because one, it was free, and two, it had no damage whatsoever, very minor scratches, so just easy overall. The drawers were nice and clean, and honestly just in really good condition altogether. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with removing the hardware from this piece because that's just gonna make it easier for me to clean. And I'm also gonna go ahead and put all the hardware pieces with the screws and everything in a Ziploc bag so that I don't lose any of it. So I'm grabbing my Dixie Belle White Lightning cleaner. This is a TSP type of cleaner, and like I mentioned in my last video, it is my favorite cleaner. It really just deglosses your pieces and also kind of just removes any kind of like gunk that these pieces may have. This one, like I said, it was in really good condition, so I wasn't really worried about that, but I definitely wanted to degloss it. And that's just going to be an extra way for your paint to stick to your piece really well. Now I do have my White Lightning in a spray bottle. The instructions say to mix 2 tablespoons of the mixture, which is kind of like, I always say, like sea salt. You mix that into a gallon of warm water. So I usually have a gallon already pre-made, and I just make sure that it's dissolved really well, and every time I reload my spray bottle, I just go ahead and shake it up, make sure the contents are really mixed well, and then I go ahead and spray it, and then just kind of refill my spray bottle as I go or as I need it. So here I'm just going to come back with, like I said, a clean rag with just the water, and that's going to remove any type of residue that may be left behind from the White Lightning. Of course, I'm always going to scuff sand my pieces. That is just going to really ensure that my paint is going to stick well. And when you're doing this, you just really want to make sure that you don't go through the finish. If you're going to be painting with a very light color and you scuff sand and go through the finish on a color like this, chances are that you may have some bleed through. So I'm just trying to be very careful with just doing a scuff sand and not really go down to like any bare wood or anything like that, like breaking through that finish, because I really don't want to deal with bleed through. However, I am going to be using silk paint, and silk does have a built-in primer, so any type of minor bleed throughs that I may get, silk will most likely take care of that. And as always, I'm going to be using my Festool RTS 400 to do the scuff sanding. I have a 220 grit sandpaper on this right now. For my top, I did decide to go down to bare wood because I do want to stain it. So I chose an 80 grit to go ahead and just break through that finish. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but that little corner right there on the left bottom side, it had a bubble. And what happened is that that area there had a little bit of water damage. So when I sanded it to get it like leveled with my top, I actually went through the veneer. So I'm gonna show you in a little bit how we're going to be able to still stain the top of this piece and camouflage that little area there so that it still looks nice. ahead and added 2 of the interface pads from Festool to my sander so that I can create a little bit more of a cushion and get the edges sanded down really well without compromising the curve. So for the areas that my sander wasn't able to reach, I'm actually going to grab my flexible contour sanding grips. These are made out of rubber and they come in different shapes and sizes, and all you got to do is really just wrap it around your sandpaper and then go ahead and just get really in that little lip and just go ahead and sand it down. I have an 80 grit on here right now. I'm going to link these in my Amazon shop so that you guys can go ahead and check them out. They're very inexpensive and very, very handy to have. So like I said, they do come in different shapes and sizes. So if you're working on a project and you just really need to get into like really intricate details, definitely check these out because they have been a lifesaver. So now that we have our top completely sanded down, I'm actually going to go ahead and start taping off certain areas so that I don't get paint in them. So I'm starting with covering up the hardware holes. So you want to make sure that you cover this because once you start spraying, the last thing you want is for spray to go right through that little hole and inside your drawer. And I personally don't feel the need to always have to use plastic wrap to cover my drawers. I have been doing this tape method for about 2 years now and it has worked really well. I never get any kind of overspray inside of my drawers. So it's something that I definitely recommend. I believe this is the 1 inch, but you can definitely get one that's like 2 inches thick so that you don't have to like double tape. You can just put one big stripe all the way around it and you should be good to go. The plastic that I'm going to be using to cover the top is made from the Scotch Blue brand, and I forgot the actual name of it, but it's basically just tape attached to plastic, and it comes in 2 different sizes. This one I believe is 24 inches long like the plastic is, and the other one is longer, and I believe the other one is about 36 inches long. So once you roll it out, that's how like long your plastic will be, which is great for larger pieces. And once I roll out this plastic, I do like to tape it down to make sure that it doesn't move around on me, because your sprayer is gonna have a lot of like airflow and it may just cause your plastic to move around, and the last thing you want is to get plastic on your newly painted wet paint. So make sure that you tape it down. I love this product, and it's something that you could also use on your drawers if you don't want to paint with your drawers in. So I recently received this sprayer from Wagner. They were nice enough to send me this to test out, and I've been playing around with it for the past month, and I have to say that I really have been enjoying this sprayer. One of my favorite things about this sprayer is that you can go on Amazon and purchase extra nozzles. So this piece that I'm holding in my hand right now, you can get extra of those. You can get like 3, 4, 5 of them if you wanted, and work with multiple projects using the same sprayer. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. I'm going to go ahead and work on thinning down my paint. I'm using the color Hampton Olive by Dixie Belle. This is from their Silk line. I have about half left, and this jar is 16 ounces. So I'm going to say I have about 8 ounces left. And Dixie Belle doesn't recommend you add more than 3 tablespoons of water per 16 ounces of paint. So I'm only going to be using 1 tablespoon because I already see that with the Wagner Flexio 5000, I really don't need to water it down as much as I used to with other sprayers, especially with this paint. So I'm only going to be adding a tablespoon of water. Again, if you're going to be using an entire 16-ounce jar of paint, try not to go over 3 tablespoons of water per 16 ounces of paint. I hope that makes sense. If you are going to be using a chalk mineral type of paint, then I would recommend you thin it to a 3-to-1 ratio. So that would be 3 parts paint and then 1 part water. Whatever you're using, whether it be a measuring cup or a spoon or anything like that, just make sure that you try to stick to like a 3-to-1 ratio. Of course, this really does depend on your sprayer. Every sprayer is different. For example, this Wagner Flexio 5000 doesn't really need as much thinning as my other sprayers. So just something to keep in mind. So I'm using a tea strainer from the dollar store to strain my paint, and this is one of the most important things that you have to remember to do when you're using a sprayer. This is going to catch any type of little old dried up bits that may have fallen into your paint, and it'll prevent your paint sprayer from clogging in the future. I have this piece of cardboard attached to my wall, and it's just really my testing area. I like to make sure that I like the flow of my sprayer. If I think it needs a little bit more power, then this is where I would adjust it. If I think it needs a little bit more paint, then I adjust it here and test it out before I start spraying on my piece. So with this sprayer, I actually like to go a little bit slower. I feel like that's given me the best results. Of course, here I have it sped up, but I do like to take my time and make sure that I get really good even coverage. And I'm staying about, I would say about 8 inches away from my piece. If you get too close, it can cause some drips, so just keep that in mind. I usually start off with spraying in a horizontal position with my nozzle, but then if I'm going to be doing the sides, I like to put it in vertical so that I can go ahead and just go up and down on those areas. And then you'll see here how I'm going to go ahead and do my sides of the nightstand. I'm going to go ahead and keep it in the vertical position to go ahead and get into those little grooves. So I'm going to be taking the drawers out in just a second and spraying the lip around the drawers and the inside. And I forgot to show it, but I did put my nozzle at an angle so that I can go ahead and spray that inside and have very minimal overspray. So here's what I wanted to show you guys. I went ahead and did purchase another nozzle on Amazon, and it was very convenient to be able to work on 2 separate projects at the same time with the same sprayer. So when the other one was done being sprayed, I was able to come back to this one that was ready for its second coat and just swap those nozzles out, and I was ready to go. Another tip that I want to share with you is to remember to wipe off any type of excess paint that may be stuck in your nozzle before and after spraying. This is going to prevent from you having issues when you go on to your second coat or anything like that. Sometimes I've had issues where I don't see paint coming out, and it was because I had dried up paint on the nozzle. So now that my paint is completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and start working on my top. As you can see, the edge of this top is much lighter than the top. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is do a wash of a warmer tone color because I do want a warmer top on this piece. So I made this color, I called it Raw Sienna. It's just 50-50 Pinecone and Kernel Mustard from the Dixie Belle Chalk Mineral line. And I'm just going to go ahead and mix it with some water to create that wash because I really don't want to cover the grain. But you can do this just by painting on the paint as is without having to water it. If you just have like any kind of water stains or any kind of just weird stains that are not going to allow you to stain your piece normally, you can go ahead and just apply a full coat of this paint and do a faux wood technique, which I do have a video on if you want to check that out. On how to do a faux wood on your tops. But I'm going to go ahead and just apply this with my Dixie Belle blue sponge. I did 2 coats on the edge, but I only did the 1 coat on the top because I didn't feel like it was necessary to do 2 coats on top. It was just that the border was a lot lighter. Taking some Voodoo gel stains from Dixie Belle in the color Tobacco Road, I'm going to go ahead and apply this right over the wash, it is completely dry. Now, the good thing about this is that the chalk mineral paint is very porous, and this stain is just going to absorb into that paint really, really nicely. So, like I said, doing that first coat or wash of that warmer tone is really going to warm up this look. Tobacco Road to me tends to be a little bit more on the cool side, so starting off with a warm base like that custom mix that I did is really going to help the Tobacco Road look a little bit warmer. Now, I only found it necessary to do one coat of this stain, but you can definitely do multiple coats if you're looking for a much richer, darker look on your top. So I did decide to top coat my paint. I know I don't need to, but I do prefer a satin sheen, and silk is more of a matte sheen when it's completely dry. So I'm going to go ahead and top coat it, and I am using my HomeRite Super Finish Max sprayer. If you guys want a video on that sprayer specifically, let me know and I can just dedicate a whole video to that one. I have been using for the past 3 years or so. So I just wanted to show you guys real quick. We started off with half a jar of the silk paint, and I still have all that left over. So that is it, you guys. I'm just staging my piece to get some really pretty pictures, and we are completely done. Okay, you guys, I think spraying silk is my new favorite thing to do. I already loved it, like brushing it on, but spraying it, it's like a whole new world. I love it. I love the way it came out. Let me know what you guys think about what I did to the top of this piece. I think it was a pretty good save, I think. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you may have learned something new, maybe about spraying, and maybe kind of gave you a little bit of encouragement about spraying your first piece. If you have any questions on either of the sprayers that I use, of course, make sure that you comment below. I'm always answering questions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm uploading videos every week, so make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. I am obsessed with silk paint. Absolutely love the way that turned out. I think, was it that